Discover how I transformed my life by exposing corruption, a heartwarming whistleblower journey. Sarah woke up to the sound of the children squabbling over cereal, the sun filtering through shabby curtains in their cramped living room. At 30, she felt like the weight of the world rested squarely on her shoulders. The struggle to make ends meet as a waitress while raising spirited Emily and Jake left her exhausted, both physically and emotionally. As she brewed the morning coffee, a sense of hope flickered within her, a hopeful dream of returning to college and earning a degree that felt tantalizingly out of reach. But today would be different. She could feel it. She took a deep breath and thought of her parents, who had taught her that hard work and integrity matter. Yet whispers of corruption lay beneath the surface of the hospital where she worked, a place that held the community's health but had begun to exploit the most vulnerable. The local diner buzzed with talk of the hospital's impossible wait times. The very place that was supposed to provide safety for patients turned dark around Sarah, and she couldn't turn away from the truth. One night, cleaning up after a long shift, Sarah stumbled upon unsettling billing practices in the hospital's computer system, patients being charged for services never rendered. Her heart raced, her gut twisted with dread. This wasn't just a problem, it was a betrayal of trust. What if I report it? What will people say? What will my children think? These thoughts clouded her mind. It felt like standing on a branch too close to the edge. The pressure mounted. She needed this job. She needed to provide for her children. But something deeper, the voice of justice, called out within her. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, the decision weighing heavily on her shoulders. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, and each one filled her with determination, but also paralyzing fear. Her boss, a man with a veneer of kindness, confronted her one evening. "You'd be wise to keep your mouth shut, Sarah," he warned, the threat hanging heavy in the air. It felt as if she was caught in a terrifying storm without any idea how to navigate through it. Then, the ultimate betrayal landed in her lap. Her own mother, whom she idolized as a strong woman, had once been part of the hospital's administration and had turned a blind eye to these corrupt practices. A wave of nausea hit her as she absorbed this truth. Daring to confront the person who shaped her values felt like plunging into a freezing river. "Mom, how could you?" All faith she had in family loyalty had shattered. Yet, amidst these revelations, Sarah found unexpected strength in the support of her neighbors who rallied around her. In their eyes, she saw a reflection of their shared resilience, a reminder of community spirit that sparked hope within her. With a town hall meeting looming, Sarah's heart raced. As she stepped toward the microphone, silence enveloped the room. All eyes were on her. This was it. Would she expose the deceit that threatened so many, or would the love for her family silence her? As she opened her mouth to speak, a familiar voice broke through the hush. Her mother burst into the room, tears streaming down her face. Sarah's world trembled on the brink. Would she stand firm on her moral compass, or could there still be a bridge to mend the bond torn apart by the very truth she sought to reveal? As the tension wrapped around her like a warm blanket and the room held its breath, Sarah stood on the precipice of change, unsure of where her path would lead. The room was charged with emotion, a palpable mix of anticipation and anxiety. Sarah's heart pounded against her chest, each beat echoing in her ears as her gaze locked onto her mother's tear-stricken face. Her mind swirled like a storm, thoughts colliding with each other in a frantic dance. This was a moment that could shift everything, not just for her, but for Emily, Jake, and everyone who had suffered at the hands of the hospital's greed. Mom Sarah's voice wavered, her throat tight with emotion. "What are you doing here?" "I came to stop you." Her mother gasped, urgency gripping her words. "Please, you have to understand," but Sarah couldn't let go of the past so easily. "Understand what?" That you watched people be harmed and did nothing? The bitterness spilled from her lips, raw and unfiltered. All those years of reverence for her mother felt like sand slipping through her fingers. You were supposed to protect them, to protect us. A heavy silence settled over the crowd. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes darting between mother and daughter, sensing the fracture unfolding. Sarah wanted to swallow her mother's words, to snuff out her reasons before they poured out. But the clenching in her stomach told her to listen. "I was trying to protect you, Sarah," her mother implored, her voice shaking. "I thought I could change things from the inside. I didn't know how deep the corruption ran. When I found out, I felt trapped, powerless. I thought keeping quiet would keep you safe." At that moment, a flicker of understanding ignited in Sarah's chest. She saw the weight her mother carried, the guilt, the longing to make the right choice, but failing at every turn. "Is that what you call protecting me?" Sarah's voice softened, but the sting of betrayal still lingered. "You could have fought. You could have spoken up." Tears brimmed in her mother's eyes. "I was scared. You have no idea what they're capable of. When I realized how bad it truly was, it was too late. But if you expose this now, I don't want to see you get hurt. We both know how powerful they are. Then we need to stand together." Sarah's resolve surged, the warmth of unity flickering to life between them. "I'll find a way to make things right. But I can't do it alone." With the eyes of the room still trained on them, Sarah took a step forward. The microphone loomed large in front of her, a beacon calling her to speak her truth. She could feel the warmth of her neighbor's support at her back, urging her to rise above fear. Would this be an opportunity to heal the rift with her mother? Would they turn this moment into something powerful together? "I'm ready," she declared, glancing back at her mother. "Not just for me, but for everyone. We can change things if we stand together." Her mother's expression shifted from fear to admiration, and in that instant, a fragile hope bloomed. What started as a moment of division now hovered on the edge of unity. But just as a soft smile broke on her mother's face, the doors at the back of the room swung open violently. A figure stepped into the light, a face both familiar and threatening. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the reality of what this meeting could mean wrapped around her like a vice. Was this person here to support her cause, or to silence her forever? As the crowd whispered and shifted uneasily, Sarah faced this new challenge, her heart racing with dread and determination. The stakes had never been higher. Would she fight back against the looming threat, or would her resolve crumble before the very people trying to intimidate her? The figure strode forward, a confident presence breaking the tension with every step. Sarah's mind raced, searching for a name to put to the face she hadn't seen in years. It was Mr. Lawson, the hospital's chief administrator, his neatly combed hair and tailored suit betraying none of the darkness she knew lurked beneath his polished exterior. He was here. Her heart sank. "Sarah," he began, his voice a smooth baritone that poured over the room like honey. "What a surprise to see you here." He tilted his head with a hint of mockery. "I've heard whispers of your little rebellion. It's cute, really." The crowd's murmurs escalated. They felt the weight of the moment shift, their earlier unity trembling under the pressure of Lawson's charisma. Sarah clenched her fists, trying to draw strength from the people around her. "Get out," she said, forcing the words through gritted teeth. The heat of her anger surged back to life. "You don't belong here." "Oh, but I do," he replied, taking another step closer. "You see, when someone starts causing trouble in my hospital, I make it my business to find out why." He allowed a calculated smile to spread across his face. "And I know you're hurting, Sarah, but don't mistake anger for strength. You need to think about the consequences of your choices." Suddenly, Sarah's fury was matched by a wave of fear. Lawson wasn't just a bureaucrat. He was the embodiment of everything she fought against. He thrived on intimidation. The thought of what he could do to her, to her friends, made her stomach churn. "Do you really think you can take them down?" He mocked, his voice dripping with disdain. "There are powers at play that you can't even begin to understand." The challenge in his eyes pushed Sarah into a corner, and the memories of her mother's words washed over her again. They're powerful. But this time, they didn't make her feel afraid, they ignited a fire within her. She turned to her mother, who nodded slightly, as if signaling to her that this was the moment to use that fear as fuel. "I may not understand everything," Sarah said, her voice gaining steadiness. "But I know what's right and what's wrong. You can't scare me into silence anymore." The crowd was leaning in, palpable energy humming in the air. Lawson's smile faltered for just a moment, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can win this? I've seen your kind before, passionate but naive. You'll ruin your life fighting this battle. Just think about everything you stand to lose." "Maybe you're right," Sarah replied, and the room held its breath. "But maybe I'm also right about standing up for what's just. Maybe I won't let fear dictate my life anymore." Hope rippled through the gathering, drawing them closer together. Her mother stepped forward, joining her side for the first time in ages. "Together, we're stronger," she echoed, a newfound determination gleaming in her tear-filled eyes. "We won't be silenced." In that moment, Lawson's face twisted in annoyance, but something shifted in the energy of the room. Uncertainty flickered behind the otherwise confident facade, and the crowd erupted into murmurs of support. Just then, the doors swung a second time, and two unfamiliar figures appeared, their presence demanding attention and respect. Sarah squinted through the haze of doubt swirling in her mind. Were they allies or foes? The ground beneath her felt both fragile and solid. Would they be the key to pushing back against Lawson, or another layer of threat? Sarah's heart raced, opening up to the reality of what lay ahead. The battle was just beginning, and she could either stand tall or lose everything she held dear. As uncertainty loomed, she knew one thing for sure: she was ready to fight. But would she be able to bring together the support she needed, or would new threats plunge her deeper into danger? The strangers stepped into the room like shadows from a storm, their energy both unsettling and magnetic. Sarah's eyes darted between them, uncertainty tightening her chest. They moved with purpose, scanning the crowd before their gaze fell on Lawson. "Mr. Lawson," one of them said, his voice clipped but unwavering. He wore a worn leather jacket that seemed out of place with the formal setting, yet there was something undeniably commanding about him. Lawson brushed his shoulders back, regaining his composure, but Sarah could see the flicker of discomfort in his eyes. "Who are you, and what business do you have here?" he demanded, the earlier mockery stripped from his tone. The second figure, a woman with fierce, bright eyes, stepped forward. "We're here because we're tired of the way you run this hospital." Each word was laced with a conviction that sent a pulse of hope scraping against the flutter of fear in Sarah's heart. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Was it possible? Allies, real allies, were standing before them? She exchanged a glance with her mother, whose nod radiated potential. Sarah felt a thin thread of connection growing among them. Maybe this was the shift they'd been searching for. "You think you can come in here and change anything?" Lawson sneered. He was trying to reassert his dominance, but the skepticism in his stance had weakened. The man stepped closer, his jaw set tight. "Change is coming whether you like it or not. Too many lives have been held captive by your toxic decisions." His words hung in the air, palpable and charged. Sarah felt the exhilaration of shared defiance. "He's right," she blurted out, the strength of her voice surprising even herself. "You can't control us forever, Lawson. Together, we'll dismantle the wall you've built. You're outnumbered." Lawson scoffed, yet she saw a flash of doubt cut through his bravado. The crowd responded, voices rising in agreement, emboldened by the new faces. Sarah's heart surged. This could be the moment they turned the tide. "Are you ready to stand behind your words?" the woman challenged, addressing the crowd. "Are you willing to take that leap, knowing the risks?" A wave of nerves washed over them. The voices that had been muted began to speak up, small at first and then louder, echoing the heart of their frustrations and fears. Sarah could feel their anger transforming into a collective roar of hope. It was exhilarating and terrifying. "Yes!" someone shouted from the back, and suddenly everyone was on their feet, fueled by the possibility of change. "Let us not just talk. Let us expose the truth about him," shouted another voice. But Lawson's demeanor snapped back to cold authority. "You're making a grave mistake," he warned, a scowl darkening his features. "You'll regret this." You'll regret ever standing against me." The words were meant to scare, but Sarah felt only resolve. She found herself stepping forward, heart racing. "Then we'll make sure everyone knows. This is just the beginning of what's to come." As the crowd continued to rally, Sarah locked eyes with the newcomers. There was a sense of solidarity forming, knotted together by shared purpose. In that moment, she felt the weight of everything she stood for pressed deeply into her bones. But beneath the exhilaration, anxiety crept in again. Would they have the strength to truly fight back? Would they find the support they needed? And what would Lawson do in retaliation? The air held the promise of struggle, and Sarah could almost touch the future they craved. But as tension built, she realized something monumental was ahead, a confrontation that would not only test their resolve, but would change everything for them all. What kind of fight lay ahead? And would the strength of unity be enough to take them past the point of no return? Sarah stood at the forefront of the crowd, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was it. She was not just a bystander anymore. She had spoken, and they were with her. The strangers had ignited something within them, a spark that came alive with every shout against Lawson's authority. "Are we really ready to do this?" she whispered to herself, glancing at her mother, who was still clenching her hand tightly. But instead of fear, Sarah found determination in her mother's eyes. Together, they were ready to change their world. The atmosphere was electric, charged with a unity they had never felt before. People began to shuffle closer, creating a tightly packed ring around Lawson as whispers transformed into declarations. "We're not backing down." Someone yelled, and the energy surged even higher. Sarah could see Lawson's face shifting from arrogance to panic. He was losing control. How to expose him? A voice from the crowd called out, breaking through the fervor. The woman in the leather jacket shifted her weight, her presence unwavering. "We gather evidence," she said decisively. "We find the stories that show how many lives have been affected by Lawson's greed. We'll take it to the media. Everyone will know." Hope swelled deeper in Sarah's chest as thoughts raced through her mind. They had to act fast. The clock was ticking, and she could feel Lawson's eyes bore into her thoughts, calculating his next move. From behind the crowd, a familiar face emerged. It was Michael, her old friend from college, looking more determined than she had ever seen him. "I can help," he shouted, urgency palpable in his tone. "I've been gathering information for months. I knew something wasn't right." "What do you have?" Sarah called out, her heart lifting with each word. Michael stepped forward, glancing at Lawson one last time before finding his voice again. "Records of malpractice, bribery, it's all here." He held up a flash drive, and cheers erupted around them. It was tangible evidence of the corruption they all felt in their bones. "We need to be strategic," the woman warned, cutting through the noise. "If Lawson finds out what we're planning, he'll try to bury us. We can't let that happen." Sarah felt the weight of her decision. "Let us split up," she suggested, her voice gaining power. "We'll gather as much information as we can and meet back here in a few hours." Every word carried the weight of potential change and risk. The crowd murmured agreement, nodding as a collective understanding washed over them. Fear was still there, intertwined with their new resolve. As they started to scatter, Sarah caught sight of Lawson. He was standing tall again, a storm brewing behind his eyes. "You think you can take me down?" he snarled, voice cutting through the crowd. "You're just a bunch of scared mice trying to roar like lions." But Sarah felt the roaring inside her. "We're not scared anymore," she shouted back, emboldened by their collective energy. "We refuse to be silenced." With a final glance over her shoulder, she broke into a sprint, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The weight of change seemed to lift her feet, propelling her forward into the unknown. She could taste the freedom on the horizon. But as she rounded the corner, doubt crept in again. What were the consequences of their rebellion? Would they really have the strength to go through with it? Would they live to tell their stories? Questions hung in the air, trailing after her. This was a moment of truth, and the possibility of it all terrified her. But before she could spiral too deep into her thoughts, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. An unknown number. "Heart racing," she answered. "Sarah," a crackling voice came through the line. dripping with urgency. "You have to listen to me. It's about Lawson." What lay behind that voice could change everything, but would Sarah be ready for the truth it held? "Who is this?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking as she stepped into a narrow alley, away from the noise of the crowd. She pressed the phone closer to her ear, straining to hear above the pounding of her heart. "Listen carefully," the voice urged, urgent and low. "I don't have much time. You've got to know Lawson is who are you? Do you know what he has done?" She felt a wave of fear and curiosity crash over her, as if she stood on the edge of a cliff, peering into an abyss of darkness. "People in positions of power protect him. Don't trust anyone. I have information that could expose his illegal dealings. Just meet me." The voice paused, then added, "But it's dangerous. You need to be cautious." Cautious? The word echoed in her mind. Wasn't he caution what had kept her quiet for so long? She felt a surge of defiance, fueled by the roar of the crowd she'd just left behind. "Where do I meet you?" she asked, biting her lip. She briefly wondered if she was stepping into something bigger than herself or if it would lead to trouble. But her resolve to confront the corruption fueled her. "In an hour. The old diner on Maple Street. Come alone." The line went dead before she could respond. Breathless, she pocketed her phone, heart racing as she calculated her next move. Time was ticking. Peeking out of the alley, she could see familiar faces, the determination still hanging in the air. If she was going to do this, she needed backup. She spotted Michael across the street, scanning the crowd, a hint of worry on his face. "Michael." Sarah waved him over, urgency bubbling within her. "What is going on?" he asked as he reached her, his brow furrowed with concern. "Someone just called me. They say they have information about Lawson. I have to go meet them, but I might need your help." His expression shifted from worry to resolve. "You can't go alone. What if it's a trap?" "I know, but I have to take this chance. We have the momentum, and if we don't act now, we'll lose everything we've gained." Michael chewed his lip, glancing back at the crowd. "Okay, let us do this together. I'll go with you." Thankful for his support, they stashed the flash drive containing evidence in Sarah's bag. "We'll gather everything we have, and when we meet, we'll share it all." They slipped out from the alley, joined the flow of determined voices, and made their way toward Maple Street. With every step, Sarah felt the mix of excitement and fear clenching her stomach. Was she ready for whatever awaited them? This could be the lead they needed, or it could lead to disaster. As they arrived at the diner, a flickering neon sign buzzed above them. It felt oddly eerie. The atmosphere tightened around them, like a rubber band stretched to its limit. What might she hear? "Stay close," she whispered to Michael. The door swung open, revealing a dimly lit interior filled with shadowy booths and worn-out vinyl seats. A figure sat in the far corner, slumped over a coffee cup, their face concealed by a hood. Heart pounding in her chest, Sarah glanced at Michael. "This is it." When she stepped inside, the bell above the door jingled, announcing their arrival. The figure looked up, revealing a face she barely recognized. "Sarah," the voice pulled her in, "I hope you're ready. Lawson's got a lot to lose, and he won't go down without a fight." What did that mean? The weight of the moment pressed down on her, urging her to brace for the unknown. Taking a breath, Sarah stepped further inside, acutely aware that this was the precipice of change. Would the truth empower them, or would it unleash wrath from the corrupted? As the figure leaned closer, her pulse raced. What bombshell lay hidden behind those words? "Are you ready to hear the truth?" The figure leaned forward, their hands wrapping around the coffee cup like it was a lifeline. The light glinted off their deep-set eyes, revealing a mixture of determination and fear. Sarah exchanged a nervous glance with Michael. "What do you know about Lawson?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. The figure hesitated, as if weighing the risks of coming forward. "I've seen things, deals being made in darkness. Money exchanging hands where it shouldn't. Lawson thinks he's untouchable, but he's not. He's made too many enemies and enemies?" Michael interrupted. "Are they involved in this too?" "Some are," the figure replied, lowering their voice as if conspirators were lurking just beyond the thin diner walls. But what you need to know is that Lawson's corruption ties back to much more than just money. It goes deep into this town's foundations. Sarah felt her stomach churn. What do you mean? People are suffering because of the choices he has made. Schools are underfunded, local businesses are failing, it all leads back to him. He is controlling everything from the shadows, the figure said, glancing over their shoulder to scan for eavesdroppers. If you're going to expose him, you need to understand the magnitude of what you're dealing with. The weight of their words settled over Sarah like a heavy cloak. She hadn't fully realized the extent of the corruption, nor the lives affected. It felt like a punch to the gut. They weren't just fighting a battle against Lawson, they were fighting for the community that had endured too much already. What can we do? Michael asked, his voice laced with urgency. How do we bring this to light? You'll need proof, solid proof, the figure urged. What you have on that flash drive could help, but you need more than just financial records. You need testimonies from people who have been harmed, those who lost homes, families, and their livelihood because of him. But how can we get people to talk? Sarah's voice cracked with the weight of the task ahead. What if they're afraid of retribution? The figure leaned back, considering. That's the challenge, isn't it? Fear keeps people quiet. You'll have to show them they're not alone. Connect with others in the community. Rally them. When they see a united front, they'll have strength in numbers. Sarah nodded slowly, feeling the pieces begin to fall into place. But doubt lingered in her mind. What if we fail? The figure gave her a piercing look, and Sarah felt the intensity behind it. If you don't try, Lawson wins. But if you fight, you might just ignite the spark that inspires others to join your cause. Every voice counts. With that, a sense of urgency fueled her once more. Sarah realized how crucial this moment was. Everything was hanging by a thread, and the impact of their fight could alter the course of many lives. Thank you, she said, her voice unsteady yet filled with resolve. We'll do this. We won't let fear dictate our future. As they prepared to leave the diner, Sarah felt a familiar fire igniting within her. For the first time in a long while, she felt empowered. Leaving the shadows behind her, she and Michael stepped out into the night, ready to take on the battle ahead. But as they walked away, the figure called after them, remember, you're not just fighting for justice, you're fighting for hope. Sarah's heart raced at the responsibilities ahead. What challenges lay in store, and would they unravel the truth before it consumed them? The streets outside buzzed with a sense of new possibilities. But could she truly harness the strength of a community united against such power? As they headed back, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, and the confrontation with Lawson was getting closer. Would they uncover the full truth in time to make a difference? The chill of the evening air hit them as Sarah and Michael stepped onto the cracked pavement outside the diner. New resolve propelled them forward, but the weight of uncertainty loomed large. Where do we start? Michael asked, rubbing his hands together as if to ward off the cold. The streetlights flickered, casting an eerie glow on their surroundings. Let's head to the community center, Sarah suggested, her voice firmer now. If people are going to rally, they'll need a place to meet. We can start spreading the word there. Michael nodded and matched her pace. It felt right, the determination binding them tighter. Together, they made their way towards the old building that stood like a sentinel at the edge of town, its faded paint a testament to better days now lost. Inside, the place was almost deserted. A couple of kids played pool in the corner, while older folks sat grouped at the tables, discussing seemingly mundane matters, nothing that hinted at the upheaval awaiting them. All we need is one person to step up, Sarah muttered under her breath, scanning the room for a friendly face. To stir a movement, they needed more than just inspiration. They needed courage. Why don't we start with Mrs. Callahan? Michael suggested. She knows everyone around here and has been dealing with the aftermath of those shady deals Lawson made. Sarah couldn't help but smile. Good idea. Let's talk to her. They approached the table where Mrs. Callahan sat, her wiry frame hunched over a cup of coffee. A familiar frown of concern creased her brow as they approached. Sarah, Michael, what are you two up to? She asked, her voice airy yet tinged with curiosity. It's about Lawson, Sarah began, her heart beating faster. We found out some things that could change everything for all of us. The older woman's eyes widened, scanning their expressions. What kind of things? That he asks not just controlling the money. He asks hurting people, real people, like you and me, the businesses, the schools. It goes so much deeper than anyone knows. Mrs. Callahan leaned in, her hands trembling slightly. I've seen the damage he has caused. You are brave to stand up to him, but you have to be careful. People are afraid. That's why we need your help, Michael said urgently. If you can talk to your friends, maybe they'll find the courage to share their stories too. Mrs. Callahan studied them closely, weighing the fear against the need for action. I'll do what I can. They need to know they aren't alone in this fight. As Sarah and Michael sat down, an overwhelming sense of hope washed over them. Perhaps Mrs. Callahan could be the first spark, the flicker that ignites a larger flame. But then a sudden commotion broke through the hopeful atmosphere, and voices rose in the corner of the room. They turned just in time to see a group of locals entering, faces twisted with apprehension. The tension was palpable. What is happening? Sarah whispered to Michael, dread settling in her stomach. He shook his head, eyes darting toward the crowd. I don't know. Suddenly, one of the new arrivals raised a hand, demanding attention. You have to listen. Lawson is coming after us. He knows we've been talking. Shock rippled through the room like cold water splashing down their backs. Just like that, the fear long buried began to surface, and Sarah realized how fragile their push for unity was. Are we ready to make a stand? She thought, the silence wrapping around the room. How many would join them? Would fear drive them apart, or could they become an unstoppable wave of resistance? The moment hung in the air like a live wire, quivering with potential. But could they rally the strength necessary to stand against Lawson? As every pair of eyes turned to Sarah and Michael, one truth settled deep in her heart. The fight was truly just beginning. The murmur in the room rose and fell like a tide, each person grappling with their own fears and doubts. Eyes darted among the group, searching for a glimmer of hope or a sign of resolve. Sarah felt the weight of their unease pressing down on her, but deep inside, a fire ignited. Listen, she called out, standing to gather their attention. The words slipped out of her mouth before she fully registered their power. I know you're scared. But if we don't stand together now, what will happen to this community? To all of us? Michael stood beside her, his presence a silent anchor. She could feel his support like a warm blanket in the cold air. Encouraged, Sarah continued, Lawson thinks he can intimidate us into silence. But if we expose the truth together, we will be stronger than he ever imagined. We owe it to ourselves and to each other. A few heads nodded cautiously, but uncertainty lingered like a thick fog. Mrs. Callahan leaned forward, her eyes fierce. What Sarah says is true. He's counting on our fear to keep us quiet. But if we share our stories, we have the power to change things. The statement resonated with the locals. A middle-aged man named Tom stood up, his voice shaky but determined. I've lost my shop to his schemes. I can't stay quiet any longer. If it means risking everything, so be it. Me too, chimed in another voice. This one belonged to a younger woman, freshly out of college. I saw what he did to the old library. They threatened the staff just to get their way. We can't let him keep getting away with this. One by one, more voices joined the chorus, standing and sharing their experiences. With every revelation, the room sparked with newfound energy. Sarah felt her heart pitter-patter, excitement mingling with nervousness as they found their rhythm. But just as the energy began to build, a heavy door swung open, and a familiar figure stepped in, dark and imposing. Lawson's eyes scanned the crowd, narrowing as they landed on Sarah and Michael. The subtle, uncomfortable shift in the air made everyone hold their breath. What is this? Lawson sneered, cutting through the tension like a knife. A little town meeting, are we? Talking about things you don't understand? Fear washed over the room again, faces turning pale. Sarah's stomach twisted with dread. She could see the resolve of some begin to waver, and she felt a sense of urgency. This was it. They needed to stand strong now more than ever. Lawson, we're done being your victims. Michael shouted, finding his voice. There was a tremor in his words, but his spirit shone through. "We've come together. We're no longer afraid." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Lawson's expression shifted, something darker lurking beneath his bemused facade. "You think you can just threaten me in my own town? I'll shut you down before you even get started." Sarah watched as fear pooled in the eyes around her, but she couldn't let that happen. "We'll fight back. Together," she declared, her conviction ringing out. The mood in the room hung thick with tension. Would they fold, or would they rise against the intimidating figure before them? As Sarah locked eyes with Lawson, she felt an unyielding strength surge inside her. The time had come to turn their hope into action, a movement that could shake the very core of their town. But as the words sank in, the danger escalated. Sarah wondered, was she prepared to lead this charge? What would it cost them all as they stood at the precipice of confrontation? A mixture of boldness and fear hung in the air, as questions loomed like storm clouds ready to break. Would they plunge into the fight for justice, or would they retreat into silence, allowing Lawson to win yet again? The course of their lives lay uncertain, but one thing was clear: the battle was only just beginning. Sarah stood tall before the crowd, heart pounding in her chest as Lawson's icy gaze pierced through her. The moment demanded courage, and she felt every eye in the room on her. The air was thick with tension, but amidst the fear, a spark of unity ignited. "We're not your victims anymore," she shouted, her voice echoing off the walls of the community center. Lawson's expression twisted, annoyance flaring. "You think you can gain strength from your little gathering? You're just promising yourselves a quick trip to regret." "Maybe," Sarah replied, summoning every ounce of bravery. "But if we don't try, we're already lost. This isn't just about you and me anymore, Lawson. This is for everyone you've hurt." The crowd surged, murmurs turning into whispers of encouragement. In that moment, she glimpsed Mrs. Callahan gripping the arms of her chair, a fire lighting her eyes. Sarah caught Michael's gaze, and he nodded fiercely, urging her on. "We have the truth on our side. Together, we can reveal your deceit," she said, her voice steady. "You really think you can take me down?" Lawson laughed, but there was a tremble in his confidence. The facade was cracking under the emotional weight in the room. "I own this town. It's mine to control. You're nothing. Not anymore." Tom, the middle-aged man, stood firm. "We've spent too long playing by your rules. Time to change the game." Applause erupted, and Lawson's face darkened under the weight of the crowd's defiance. "You'll regret this." "You don't know what enemies you're making," he warned, but uncertainty flitted through the corners of his arrogance. "Bring it on." Sarah felt the fire within her growing. "We're not afraid. Look around you. There are more of us than there are of you." The energy vibrated through the room, a tangible force binding them together. Inspired voices poured out, each story building momentum, revealing the pain Lawson had buried beneath layers of authority. "Lawson can't silence us anymore," a young woman previously hesitant shouted, throwing her fear aside. "We are stronger together." The words were met with an uproar of agreement, banners of hope waving among the crowd. "Enough," Lawson bellowed, but the fury in his voice was only an echo of desperation now. "Tell us, what is really happening behind closed doors?" Sarah added, pressing further. "How many lives have suffered under your heavy hand? This isn't just about you controlling this hospital, it's about the lives you're willing to sacrifice for a paycheck." The crowd roared, emboldened, and in that cacophony, something shifted within Sarah. There was no going back. They could fight for their families, their friends, their community. "Let us expose the truth," Michael called out, reminding everyone of the flash drive. "Let us gather testimonies. If we stand united, we can turn the tide." With every person that stepped forward to share their story, layers of fear began to peel away. Faces emerged from the shadows, faces of neighbors who had suffered silently too long, and with each story shared, the foundation of their cause grew stronger. But as the wave of positivity surged, Lawson's composure shattered. "You'll all regret this. You think you can take me down? You'll never win." Knowing they were right at the edge of change, Sarah stepped closer, her voice clear and determined. "This is our moment. We won TV silenced by intimidation. We'll gather every ounce of evidence we have and take it to the press. We'll make this figure impossible for anyone to ignore. The crowd erupted in cheers of approval, a fellowship forming like a shield around them. The whispers of fear began to transform into a roaring chorus of courage. As Lawson retreated, his presence lingering like smoke, Sarah took a deep breath. She could feel the weight of the journey ahead, difficult, uncertain, but filled with hope. This was just the beginning. Days passed, and the message spread. Testimonials flooded in from the community, and soon they found themselves organizing events, drawing more people into their movement. Each step filled them with determination and purpose. At the first public rally, Sarah stood hand in hand with her mother, both visibly changed. "They tried to silence us, but look at how far we've come," she declared into the microphone, a radiant smile breaking across her face. "This fight is for our families, our community, and every person who has lost their voice." The crowd erupted, their joy echoing in the crisp air. And so, Sarah became that beacon of hope, the whistleblower who would not falter. Together, they would face whatever came, for they had shown that resilience could rise even in the darkest of times. With every future challenge they faced together, they knew the weight of love, unity, and justice would always prevail. This was their moment. Don't wait, people. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Just hit that bell and mark all notifications to stay updated. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible change. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.